Alright, before we get into the video, I need to address the title. I did not play Animal Crossing. That's why it says almost all the games. I don't own a Switch, so there you go. I'm not gonna put it on this list because I haven't played it, and that wouldn't be fair to put it in randomly or based off score or something like that. I meant to get this video out like 4 months ago, but here we are, 4 months later. I have played through every Game of the Year nominee from 2020, and I thought it'd be interesting to sort of rank them to see where they're at, and also give you my personal opinion on if I would put it even in the nomination list. I think it's just a good way to sort of see what the best of the best was last year, and maybe let you guys know what you should be checking out and what you shouldn't, although I'm not really sure what I qualify for in terms of, you know, giving people recommendations. Probably I don't qualify for that at all, actually, but let's hop into it. I have done a review of 2 of the games on here, so I'll let you know which ones those are, and you can check them out if you want. Alright, well, for my first pick on the list, I'm sure this video is going to get tons of dislikes. It's a great way to start a video, to take a game that has pretty much a cult following at this point, and pretty much say that it's the worst out of the 5 Game of the Year nominees last year. But you know, let's just, I'm not gonna lie though, right?
Who do you think you're talking to? Nobody gets out of my domain, whether alive or dead. You wish to learn the hard way? Fine. Then go. Get out. Don't let me stop you.
Look at this dude.
Number 5 is Hades. Alright, I'll be honest, look. Hades is a fine game. I actually don't think there's too much wrong with it. For people who enjoy the gameplay, I can totally understand why you would put, 50 plus hours into here. And I actually think the way that it approaches its storytelling is pretty interesting and unique as well. It sort of drip feeds you, but it's not too obnoxious, and it's paced out really nicely in terms of once you get a good amount of progress done through the game, it gives you more story. There are only a couple of characters that I actually think are interesting here, and that I actually want to know more about. Not that the other ones are bad, I just think there's a select few that I personally am more interested in. And so, the gameplay progression is slow, and I understand that, and this might just be a thing where I don't really understand the genre, or I don't really enjoy what this genre has to offer. Every time I start my next, I guess I'll call it raid, I'm not really having, any more fun than the last one. I'm not having any less fun. It just kind of starts to feel repetitive. Isn't the right word, because every run you can gear up with different stuff. I just don't really have that chase or that motivation to just, push through it all and get to the next level. Again, maybe it's the genre. I'm not familiar with it. And I don't hate it, right? It's just nothing about this game to me really screams Game of the Year. I think the gameplay and loot progression is interesting enough for the people that are there, like, definitely, but there's nothing that's calling me back to it. As of now, I don't really see myself playing it that much. I might play it occasionally, but it's not calling me back to it, and it's not a game I think I can put, as of now, 50 hours into it. If I'm wrong about it, if I get into it later, I'll totally make a video about it, because I always want to make sure, the stuff I put out here is my up-to-date opinion. With that being said, I don't want to undermine it being, an indie game as well. Like, I think the story of the production of this game is actually really interesting and awesome, and I think it deserves a lot of the credit that it's getting, for sure. It's just personally not a game that I was ever really got into. Hades will have to go on number 5 on my top 5 Game of the Year 2020 nominees. Yeah, and I said that right. Yeah,
okay. We can't thank you enough. Please. Updated engine, running on PS4.
Please be last.
All I'm going to say is, thank you for coming. Please enjoy.
Oh my God.
Fuck this. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. Fuck you. I don't give a...
Oh god, now we have to play as her? No.
I don't want to play as this bitch.
Dude, I don't know if I want to play as this witch again.
Okay. on my personal list, The Last of Us Part 2 takes number 4. I actually did a review of this game and I gave it a 70% with over, and I guess on my scale, that pretty much means average or like just above average, that sort of area. With over 30 hours clocked in, thanks to part of a second playthrough actually. I think there's a lot of good here, but it's ultimately just held back severely by its messy story and awkward pacing and length. And also the way it treats a lot of its characters. I would consider playing The Last of Us 2 again, only on the hardest difficulty, which I'm still sort of doing. I enjoyed the experience that the gameplay had to offer, and again, it did pretty much everything right there. Now, it might sound like I'm gonna go back on my word on what I just said, but I think it's still important to point out, after playing some of the other games on this list, I kind of wish The Last of Us Part 2 had more innovative gameplay than it does now, because it really is the same gameplay from the first game, which I still enjoy, so I enjoyed the gameplay here, but yeah, just after playing stuff like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Ghost of Tsushima, I really wish they just had more in the gameplay, but I can't really judge it on that because the time that I played it, I was having a fine time with it. But yeah, again, on my next playthroughs, I would just have to skip every cutscene and sort of turn my brain off and not engage with the story. And I hope the next Naughty Dog game does have more advancements in its gameplay. You know, I would love to see a new IP from them, I think, with a story and experience that we've come to expect, and with gameplay elements that expand sort of beyond just the climbing and shooting. I think this game could have been a really solid nominee for Game of the Year on my list, if it just nailed the story part and characters part, which it just didn't do. That being said, The Last of Us 2 is not a game that comes to mind when I think of Game of the Year, so it will be number 4 on my list. Eternal. Okay, this was my first Doom game, and I always thought of myself as someone who needed, like, you know, just the more structured story and evenly paced game to really enjoy it, and holy shit was I wrong. Doom Eternal has so much balls to it, and it's not afraid to showcase any of it. I was legitimately hooked within the first 10 minutes of gameplay, and I already understood, under the 1 hour mark, I understood the appeal. Doom Eternal was the one game in this whole year, actually, this whole year of, you know, the virus, that actually reignited, like, some life inside of me. It was crazy. I was having so much damn fun and was just so excited to come back to this game every time. And I think that really speaks volumes, right? Doom's gameplay is the center of it, and it doesn't hold back. The gear you collect, the level design, it so perfectly complements each other, it's perfect. You actually want to find the secrets here. You actually want to explore the map. You want to kill those extra demons to see what's around the corner. And again, the level design and traversal, it just finds a way to perfectly slow down the pace to where you're not overwhelmed and you can relax a bit, but also it's enough energy to sort of keep you on edge and ready to jump back into battle right when it happens. And there's actually a surprising amount of lore and story here as well. And I say surprising because I just never hear about this game's story. All I hear about is the gameplay and the music, and that's kind of what I think it all is. But I think, you know, the more I look into it, Doom actually has a pretty rich, maybe not rich is the right word, but it has a lot of story and lore for the people that want it. And again, it's in this game too. But while the focus is the gameplay, I think the story is really damn interesting here too. It's able to keep your attention, but the cutscenes never overstay their welcome. The game always wants to give the control back to you, and it strikes a perfect balance. Like, I never felt the cutscenes were shown to me more than they needed to be, and if you wanted to learn more, you have the notes, and you have more areas to explore and all of that, and more things to interact with. I never felt like this game was ever forcing any part of its story down my throat. Everything that was shown was necessary. It was short, simple, to the point. I understood what was going on, and I liked it. Not to mention the game feels just amazing to play on PC. I didn't play it on console. I didn't have a controller. I had mouse and keyboard for this one. It felt great. I'm not sure how it feels on controller, but on PC it's just so responsive and crisp. The enemy design also justifies your kind of ridiculous arsenal of weapons, and there are a decent amount of demons here that actually takes skill to take down. It's easy to look at gameplay and think it's just a ton of bullets and different weapons, but they actually do all have a purpose here. Even on normal difficulty, I think it strikes a good balance at punishing you enough at the right places, so it forces you to actually learn the mechanics and systems, but also has room for you to just rip and tear. There are almost always more ways to get health, armor, ammo, everything like that. You just need to remember how the game works. It's just fun to play. I don't know how else to say it. It's not a very long game, but I think that works in its favor. It knows when to end. There's also a multiplayer mode, which I have not tried, but it's there for those that want it. Overall, Doom Eternal shows just how badass a game can be when it shoves its gameplay in your face and you have the control over the action. Doom Eternal most certainly comes to mind when I think of Game of the Year, and it's a worthy title of earning my number 3 spot.
When Tsushima was first settled, a strange and terrible thunderstorm swept across our island. Wherever lightning struck, beasts of lightning appeared. These violent creatures tore through villages, causing death and destruction, moving too quickly to be stopped. The people knew only one man who could possibly stand against the lightning beasts.
Jake Paul.
The fastest swordsman in all of Tsushima.
Jake Paul.
Never lost a duel. With years of practice, he had created the Heavenly Strike, an attack that struck quicker than the eye could follow.
I'll be honest, I had a lot of doubts about this next game. I was honestly a little bitter that Sucker Punch wasn't focusing on a sequel to Infamous Second Son or just another Infamous game, and I really had no interest in this game. This was one of those games that was shown off for so long and you know, promoted so much by Sony that you had to expect it to fail. One of those games that gets so much coverage and hype and ultimately falls flat on release. Kind of reminds me of another big 2020 release. I can't put my finger on it. When Ghost of Tsushima launched on July 17th, my doubts were quickly put to rest. Ghost of Tsushima is great. It's refreshing, and in a genre that oftentimes isn't refreshing. It's an open world game, and it doesn't feel like a chore to play. Ghost of Tsushima has a powerful narrative, great gameplay, great soundtrack, and looks breathtaking. Ghost of Tsushima really makes you feel like you are an unstoppable legend in this Mongol invasion, and that you are with Jin watching him craft the legend of the ghost. You have great story, you have amazing gameplay that almost honestly crosses the line of having almost like too much to it, but you kind of understand why it is that way, and as you play, you get used to it. For an open world game, this is already a great formula, but what really brings it all together and, you know, nails it is the natural feeling of the world. You'll come across tales and missions that are crafted into the design of the world and makes everything feel much more connected. Now, to some of the game's faults, the game actually has somewhat of a non-interesting main character almost. Like, he's a sort of flat protagonist. Some of the supporting cast is good, but it's the story, the themes, and the emotion that's involved in the conflict of the game's story that holds this game up more than its actual characters, if that makes sense. While all of the emotional beats still hit as they should, they could have drove the hits even further if they just had a more fleshed out and interesting main character, I feel. This game also has tons of content naturally. I saw people say that it didn't, and I don't know what game they're playing. Not a single bit of it felt repetitive to me is the main point here as well. I put over 30 hours into this game, and I still have tons of side stuff to do, by the way. But I put over 30 hours of it, and almost every hour felt fresh. If you want a game that does the opposite, think Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm 22 hours into that game, and it already feels more boring and grindy than Ghost of Tsushima ever did. Topping it off is the great soundtrack. It's not over the top, it's not even your stereotypical soundtrack really, but it builds tension, amplifies emotion, and adds atmosphere at the perfect times with the perfect amount of intensity. Ghost of Tsushima most certainly comes to mind when talking Game of the Year, and it earns number 2 on my list.
These sewer rats appear to call themselves Avalanche, sir.
You can have it.
Fighting for was ever won without sacrifice.
Help me!
Final Fantasy VII Remake. Honestly, after writing this video, watching my own review, and thinking about the game more, I think my opinion of this game has only gone up. For context, I didn't actually play the original, and I had not even played a single Final Fantasy game before. It was really all thanks to a friend that I played this game. I had my eye on it, but he kind of, nudged me to go and buy it and try it out, and yeah, I don't regret it at all. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Final Fantasy VII Remake, in my eyes, is a masterpiece. All of the pieces of this game's puzzle fit together near perfectly to form an amazing final product. The story, it's a classic, of course, but it's still great here, and the characters are treated with the utmost respect. I think that already is a mark of a great game. They have good, interesting characters, relatable characters, characters that feel real in a fantasy game, and they let the players spend time with them because they want to. Already having a genuinely captivating story and characters that you care for is the start of something great. That greatness is only multiplied here by one of the most engaging combat systems I've ever had the pleasure of playing in. When I say engaging, I don't mean necessarily as visually immersive as The Last of Us Part 2 or as chaotic and as action-packed as Doom. I mean the combat is designed in a way that makes you think about your decisions, and it makes you want to learn what works and what doesn't. It makes you think about your build without feeling like a chore. Again, it makes you feel these things because you want to do better here. You guys know I'm a sucker for a good soundtrack, and this game is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. Straight up top 3 soundtracks of all time. It's not even close. Or I guess I can't say that if it's not number 1, but it's top 3 for sure. It's so diverse, and it dabbles in so many different genres, and does them all, in my opinion, perfectly, and along with great production as well. The seamless transition from gameplay to cutscene, the visuals, I can go on and on. Now, the bad parts of this game, there isn't much. There's the infamous texture loading issues, the parts that drag on for a bit too long, and I guess another flaw is it assumes you've played the original, so a lot of the story is told in implicit ways, and I found that it actually was hard to follow a bit, for me. The strengths hold it up at the end of the day, and it really shines through. With 34 hours clocked in, every hour in Midgar was just a treat. I was always so invested in what was happening and where the story would go and, what my next battle would be. With all that being said, Final Fantasy VII Remake earns my 2020 Game of the Year. I can't wait to hop back into it when the PS5 upgrade and DLC releases in June. Alright, I hope you liked my list. Chances are you didn't. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video. If not, leave a dislike. Thanks for watching.